The rainforest never truly slept. Even at dawn, when the sky was still gray and the mist clung to every leaf like a second skin, the forest breathed, slowly, steadily, through the rustle of branches and the whisper of insects hidden under bark. But that morning, something felt wrong. The troop had been moving for nearly an hour, following Bruno's lead along a narrow path that only animals used, vines draped over fallen logs like ropes, and giant ferns spread open like green hands across the ground. The air smelled wet, rich, alive, yet the usual soundtrack, birds calling above, monkeys chattering in the canopy, was thinner than it should have been. Bruno noticed it first. He always did. He was the silverback, the anchor of the troop. His chest was broad, his arms thick as young tree trunks, and his back carried the pale silver stripe that marked both power and responsibility. Bruno didn't waste energy on meaningless aggression. He didn't need to. A single grunt, a single look, and the troop adjusted their steps around him as naturally as water flowing around stone. Behind him, the younger gorillas played in short bursts, wrestling, tumbling, testing each other, then returning to their mothers when Bruno's head shifted, when his gaze swept across the undergrowth like a silent warning. And then there was Maya. Maya moved differently now. She was usually graceful in her own way, heavy, sure-footed, calm, but recently her pace had slowed. Her breathing came a little deeper. Her hands, normally busy stripping leaves or grooming a curious youngster, drifted to her belly more often than not, resting there as if guarding something precious inside. It wasn't weakness. Bruno knew that. It was something else. The troop reached a patch of wild celery and young bamboo shoots, a favorite feeding spot. Several gorillas immediately dropped to all fours and began eating, tearing stalks with practiced hands. Lily, a small female with bright, restless energy, bounded over a log and almost crashed into Maya's side. Maya didn't snap at her. She didn't shove her away. She simply leaned down and pressed her forehead gently to Lily's. Lily made a happy little sound and bounced backward, then forward again, like she couldn't decide whether to play or stay close. Her eyes kept flicking to Maya's stomach, as if she sensed something important there. Jack approached a moment later. Jack was young, still carrying more bravado than wisdom, but he had the kind of alertness Bruno respected. He wasn't the strongest, not yet, but he watched, he learned, and lately he'd been hovering near Maya like a shadow, bringing her the best leaves, making sure she had space when the troop crowded in. Jack stopped a few feet away and tilted his head, studying Maya with a seriousness that didn't match his age. He let out a soft grunt, a question more than a statement. Maya answered by sitting down carefully, slower than usual, her knuckles sinking into the soft earth. She exhaled, long and controlled. Bruno stepped forward. The troop quieted without being told. Even Lily froze mid-bounce, sensing the shift. Bruno stood close enough to smell Maya. Warm fur, damp soil, crushed leaves. And then he noticed it. The subtle change in her posture. The way she held her weight. The faint swell that hadn't been there before. The rhythm of her breath. Bruno lowered his head and made the softest sound, a low rumble that was almost gentle. Maya met his eyes. It wasn't fear in her gaze. It was acceptance. Calm, and underneath it, something fierce. Bruno understood. She was pregnant. The knowledge spread through the troop the strange, wordless way. Animals share truth. A few females shifted closer, sniffing the air, touching Maya's shoulders with careful hands. One of the adolescents made an excited sound, and got immediately corrected by a sharp glance from Bruno. Lily squealed quietly, more a squeak than a scream, and pressed both hands to Maya's side, like she wanted to feel the life inside. Maya let her. Jack, suddenly full of purpose, began gathering broad leaves nearby, pulling them into a small pile, as if the idea had struck him like lightning. We'll need a nest, a better nest, a safe nest. For a moment, the rainforest felt warm again, familiar. A baby meant the troop would grow. A baby meant tomorrow mattered. But Bruno didn't celebrate. Not yet, because the forest was still too quiet. Bruno lifted his head and listened, not with ears alone, but with his whole body. The jungle had a language, a warning system. When everything was normal, the canopy buzzed with life, and the ground-level world moved with confident noise. But when danger crept near, the forest didn't get louder. It got careful. The insects still chirped, but softer. The birds still moved, but lower. Even the wind felt like it was trying not to be heard. Bruno's nostrils flared. There, the scent didn't belong. It was faint, almost buried under the clean smell of rain and vegetation. But it wasn't natural. It was sharp and oily, like something that had no place among trees and mud. Metal, smoke, and beneath it, human sweat. Bruno's spine tightened. He had encountered humans before, long ago when he was younger. Back then his father had led the troop. Bruno remembered the day the forest had been split by noise, cracking thunder that wasn't thunder at all. He remembered the smell of panic, the screaming of birds, the way the troop had run without understanding why, until it was too late. Those memories lived in his bones. He looked across the clearing. Most of the troop was eating. A few groomed each other. Maya sat with Lily pressed close, one hand resting on her belly, eyes half closed, as if she were listening inward. Bruno took a step away from them, moving toward a dense wall of ferns. His gaze scanned the shadows between trunks. Nothing moved, yet the feeling remained, like being watched by something that didn't blink. Then it happened. A sound, so distant it could have been mistaken for thunder, if Bruno didn't know better. A low, mechanical hum, steady, unnatural, rolling through the far hills like a warning carried on the wind. Engines. Bruno froze. Some of the younger gorillas didn't react. They'd never learned that sound. They'd never known what it meant. But a few older females stiffened, their eyes widening slightly as they turned toward Bruno. Maya opened her eyes. She didn't panic. She simply looked at Bruno, and Bruno saw it. She could feel the shift, too. He made a short, sharp grunt. The troop paused. Jack stopped tearing leaves and looked up instantly. Lily clung closer to Maya. Bruno didn't roar. He didn't charge. He didn't waste fear. He did what leaders do when survival hangs by a thread. He moved. Bruno stepped forward into the path again and began walking, slow but certain, deeper into the forest, away from open spaces, away from the distant hum. One by one, the troop followed, the way they always did, trusting him because trust was the only thing that ever kept them alive. Maya rose carefully, taking her time. Jack was at her side immediately, offering his shoulder like a silent promise. Lily stayed close, too, glancing behind them every few steps, as if she expected the trees themselves to chase them. The troop disappeared into the jungle, and behind them, the clearing returned to silence. But the hum didn't stop. It grew a little louder, and somewhere far away, too far to see, too close to ignore, something metal cut through the green world like a blade. Bruno led them onward, his eyes hard, his mind racing, because Maya's baby wasn't just coming, it was coming soon, and Bruno knew the cruel truth about the rainforest. A new life didn't arrive in peace. It arrived in a world that would test it immediately. As the light dimmed under thicker canopy, Bruno glanced back once more. Maya's hand was still on her belly, protective, gentle. Bruno let out a quiet rumble, a promise only the troop could understand. "I will get you through this." And the rainforest, holding its breath, listened. The deeper the troop moved into the rainforest, the darker the world became. Massive trees rose like ancient pillars around them, their roots twisting through the soil like sleeping snakes. Thick vines hung between branches, and the air grew heavier with every step. The sunlight that once filtered through the canopy now appeared only in thin, scattered rays. Bruno kept walking. He didn't rush. A leader who ran too fast created panic, but every movement he made carried quiet urgency. His ears stayed alert, turning toward every unfamiliar sound. Behind him, the troop followed closely. Jack stayed near Maya the entire time. Maya's steps had grown slower since the morning. She paused more often, resting her weight against tree trunks or sitting carefully on the soft ground. Each time she stopped, Jack would gather fresh leaves and pull them into a small pile so she could rest comfortably. Lily refused to leave Maya's side. The young gorilla kept glancing at her stomach, as if waiting for something magical to happen at any moment. Hours passed. The forest slowly changed its voice as evening approached. Daybirds disappeared into the canopy, replaced by distant calls of night creatures. The air cooled slightly, and a thin mist began creeping between the trees. Bruno finally stopped in a dense section of jungle, where the vegetation grew thick and tangled. Huge leaves formed natural walls, hiding the troop from anything passing nearby. It was a good place to rest. He turned toward the group and gave a low, steady grunt. The troop relaxed. Was a routine they knew well. Something was a routine they knew well, something done almost every evening. But tonight, something felt different. Maya sat down slowly on a soft patch of earth. She closed her eyes. Then she inhaled deeply. Jack noticed it first. Her breathing had changed. He stepped closer and let out a quiet, questioning grunt. Maya didn't answer immediately. She pressed both hands gently against her belly. Another breath, slower this time. Then she made a soft sound, low and strained. Bruno's head snapped toward her. The silverback moved instantly, crossing the small clearing in just a few heavy steps. When he reached Maya, he lowered himself slightly, studying her face. Her eyes met his. This time there was no doubt, pain, but not fear. Maya let out another deep breath and whispered the only message her body could give. It was time. The birth had begun. The troop reacted almost immediately. Bruno made a short, commanding rumble. Jack sprang into motion, breaking thick branches and dragging them toward Maya. Large leaves were gathered quickly and stacked together, forming a soft nest on the ground. Two of the older females joined in, carefully arranging the leaves to create a safe place for Maya to lie down. Within minutes, the nest was ready. Maya slowly lowered herself into it. Lily sat beside her, wide-eyed but unusually quiet, watching everything with intense focus. The forest around them darkened as night settled in fully, the air filled with the sounds of insects and distant animal calls. For a moment it seemed like the jungle had accepted this moment of life. But Bruno still felt uneasy. He stood a few steps away, scanning the darkness between the trees. Listening, the troop worked quietly around Maya, helping her stay calm. Jack moved nervously nearby, pacing back and forth, unsure how to help but unwilling to leave. Then Bruno heard it. A sound so small, most animals would have ignored it. Click. Metal. Bruno froze. His head turned slowly toward the source. Between the thick tree trunks, far beyond the clearing, a thin beam of white light suddenly appeared. It flickered once, then moved. Another beam followed. Flashlights. Humans. They were much closer now. Bruno's chest tightened. The humans' voices drifted faintly through the forest, low, unfamiliar, broken by the crunch of leaves beneath heavy boots. They were searching, and they were coming this way. Bruno knew exactly what that meant. If the humans discovered the troop now, Maya would not be able to run. None of them would leave her, which meant the entire troop would be trapped. Behind him, Maya let out another quiet cry as a wave of pain passed through her body. The baby was coming. Bruno had seconds to decide. He turned toward Jack. The young male was already staring at the lights with wide, tense eyes. Bruno gave a deep, sharp grunt. A signal. Jack understood immediately. Without hesitation, he ran toward the edge of the forest in the opposite direction of the approaching lights. Two younger males followed him. Then the crashing began. Branches snapped. Bushes shook violently. Jack slammed his hands against tree trunks, making as much noise as possible, like a large troop rushing away in panic. The effect was immediate. The beams of light jerked toward the sound. Human voices grew louder, excited. The footsteps changed direction. They began moving after Jack. Bruno watched carefully until the lights disappeared deeper into the forest. The trap had worked, but Jack was now leading the danger away, alone. For a moment, the jungle fell quiet again. Bruno turned back toward Maya. She was breathing heavily now. The birth was getting closer. Lily stayed beside her, gently touching her arm as if trying to comfort her. The rest of the troop formed a loose circle around them, silent and tense. Above them, the dark canopy swayed softly in the night wind. Somewhere far away, branches continued to snap as Jack ran through the jungle. The humans followed, and in the middle of the silent clearing, Maya prepared to bring a new life into a world that had suddenly become very dangerous. The rainforest was completely dark now. Only a faint silver glow from the moon filtered through tiny gaps in the canopy far above, barely touching the forest floor. The thick leaves and tangled branches swallowed most of the light, turning the jungle into a world of shadows. But the troop didn't need light. They needed silence. Maya lay in the nest of leaves the others had built for her. Her breathing came in slow, heavy waves now, rising and falling with the rhythm of the pain moving through her body. Beside her sat Lily. The young gorilla had never seen a birth before, yet she refused to move away. Every time Maya exhaled sharply, Lily gently touched her arm, making soft, reassuring sounds. Around them, the troop formed a loose protective circle. No one spoke, no one played. Every ear listened, every eye watched the darkness. And at the edge of the clearing stood Bruno. The silverback didn't sit. He remained upright, his massive shoulders tense, his gaze fixed on the forest beyond the leaves. He was listening. Far away, somewhere in the jungle, branches still cracked and rustled. Jack was still running, still drawing the humans away. Bruno felt both pride and worry twist inside his chest. Jack was brave, but the jungle was wide, and humans were persistent. Another soft cry came from Maya. Her hands gripped the leaves beneath her. The birth was close now. One of the older females moved beside her and gently adjusted the leaves beneath her body, making the nest softer and safer. Maya closed her eyes and breathed deeply again. Time moved strangely in that quiet clearing. Seconds stretched. Minutes felt longer than hours. Bruno's ears twitched suddenly. He heard something new. Footsteps, very faint, but not the heavy, careless footsteps of humans. These were lighter, faster. Then a familiar shape burst through the leaves at the edge of the clearing. Jack. He stumbled into the clearing, breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling rapidly. His fur was tangled with broken twigs and leaves, but he was alive. The humans were gone. Jack looked toward Bruno and gave a short, exhausted grunt. Bruno answered with a low rumble, relief. Jack slowly moved closer to the troop, collapsing onto the ground to catch his breath. But before anyone could relax completely, Maya cried out, louder this time. Her body tensed as the final wave of pain moved through her. The troop leaned closer. Lily's eyes widened. The forest held its breath. And then a new sound entered the night, small, fragile, a tiny squeak. For a moment no one moved. Then Maya slowly lifted something small from the nest of leaves, a newborn gorilla. The baby's fur was dark and soft, its tiny fingers immediately curling into Maya's thick chest fur, as instinct guided it to hold on. Maya pulled the baby gently against her body. Her breathing slowed. The pain faded from her face, replaced by a calm warmth that spread through her eyes. Lily made a quiet, excited chirp and leaned closer, staring at the tiny creature with pure amazement. The rest of the troop relaxed slightly, soft sounds of curiosity and relief moving through them. Bruno stepped forward, slowly, carefully. He stopped a few feet away from Maya. The great silverback lowered his massive head and studied the newborn. The baby made another small sound and tightened its grip on Maya. Bruno watched for a long moment. He had seen many seasons of the rainforest, storms that ripped trees from the ground, battles with rival males, hunters passing through the jungle like shadows. He had seen loss. He had seen fear. But this moment was different. Jack slowly